We're not going to solve all the issues today. Ma'am?
We don't have close, so we can't hear you.
Where you like close?
You hear me now?
No.
That might be good. Listen, anyway, if you want to speak, please step forward, sign a card, and we'll give you a chance to speak to the jury. We'll try to keep everything orderly if we can, keep it short. We have a lot of stuff to cover today. All right, with that, I'm asking Mr. Cook to lead us in a pledge, or pledge, lead us in a prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
All right, first item up, Mr. Mayor.
Hey, thank you for letting me be here today. My name is Carmen Pitt, I'm a fence maker. We have a public meeting today at 11:30 where we're going to give a really detailed presentation about the work that we're doing for y'all for the Cameron Parish Surge Protection Burn Project. Just want to let y'all know right now, kind of give you a quick update of what we're working on. We were hired in June. Our contract started in June. We are due to have you results in January. And what we're going to do is we're modeling all of the flow that comes from the GIWW into the areas around Village Chenier Road and Chenier Pardue Road. And how that water is getting in there and how that water is getting out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to model some different ways that we can try to stop that water from getting in, and some different ways that we can keep that water, that we can make that water get out so that we can protect the homes that way. And with that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
What process are y'all gonna do for the intercoastal, for us having a port ready? Is that gonna be, let me tell you why I say that. You can do it all day long, you can block all those marshes up, but when that water's gotta get out through them lots. And what's happening is, before the storm, the bottom in that intercoastal has come up, and the level of water is going up. So when they block off all the marshes along the intercoastal, that water's gotta come in my district and onto the property on the parish line, where the water stays high and won't never go down. And these people are, I mean, that needs to be part of your study, or whatever you want to call it, that takes that into effect. You block these marshes along the Eastern coastal all day long, but all that water in Sweet Lake and a lot of districts, his district, Kurt's district, it's all the north side of the intercoastal. When you hold the water level higher in the intercoastal, it floods our communities. So, I mean, it's good that you're wanting to protect the marshes south, but you're flooding the people north.
Well, when we do the models, we'll see where that water goes if we do block it from going south per se. And you're right, if the water level is held high in the GIWW, it's going to cause a problem for all those marshes. Those marshes need to be dried out in some kind of way for some period of time for them to survive properly.
Now, I want to protect the marsh, but I also want to protect our people from having water standing there on their property where there's not normally water for months at a time, where it don't never drain out because the locks are holding the water higher so that marine traffic can pass. Because the Corps won't come in and dredge intercoastal where they can keep the water low.
Right. Yeah.
That has a lot of effect on the marshes too.
It does, you're right, I understand that, and I wish I had put more influence over the board on that, but we'll do what we can, and we'll give you some justification if we can.
I just wanted to reflect in your study that needs to be accounted for so that we got that showed to the court, you know, and you can say that.
That's something we'll certainly take and we'll put some thought into it, see if we can do a model.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item, Kevin Seymour.
Good morning. I'm going to be brief. I was originally on this agenda to give our annual update and report. Well, needless to say, that did not happen. Like everyone else, our focus and our priorities have changed, and we are still in sort of disaster mode, and we probably will be for the foreseeable future. But our office is up and operational. We've got power back, water, and our internet service is working. And so we've got somebody back and forth from there. Sheriff's Department was in there for a few weeks. They're back out. So we're operating from there and remotely as best we can. We're still sort of fisheries. See, we're operating. We're still doing assessment. We've got flowers with the department. The week after the storm, I had a Sea Grant agent that worked with me out of New Orleans come by, and we mapped out an area, and he visited every dock and as many people as he could get to, and started a list of damages and vessels damaged and names, and we've added on to that. Saturday before last, we had one of the biggest gatherings of fishermen that I can remember over at the port office here in Cameron. And we gathered a lot of information there. But this whole assessment process and finding relief or assistance is long-term. But we're still starting that process. Our county agent, Bradley Pousson, is doing the same thing with cattle owners. We've got virtual sign-up right now for 4-H'ers. Even the ones that are displaced can sign up and participate in 4-H'ers in virtually for now. So that's kind of where we are. I'm going to take a lot of your time. That's the one got questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for the work y'all doing, especially Bradley, helping the cattlemen out with what they need. Next item, Butcher.
Yes, Pelican Point Road, goes on to Pelican Point. Got some serious flooding problems on that road quite often. Those people have to drive through salt water to get back and forth to their residences. That water will get as high as a foot or so, or close to a foot, quite often. And not only that, I mean, we've got concrete riprap on one side of the road at the Parish place. On the other side, the shoulder just drops off, and Emily had the Parish crew go and put delineator posts. Because another thing I was worried about, one of these times when the water's high, we want somebody to drive off the road into that east ditch and turn the vehicle over. But we need to have some engineering work done. Emily's got information on it. We need to lift that road about 12 inches, about a 600 or 700 foot stretch that we need to lift. That road is sinking. So she's got some stuff.
There's pictures and there's,
I think we got a lot of roads in the parish we gotta live, that's having the same problem. Might be this one, but every bunch, I got 2 or 3 in my district, that need to be lifted up for sure. How many people live off of this road? Homes,
Probably,
not camps, homes.
homes probably 8 or 10.
I know just in one district of mine, I bet you, behind, off of Fall Road, the 3 roads back there, there must be about 50 or 60 residents that live that need to be lifted. You know, so I think if we're gonna lift roads, we need to look at the priority of how many people live on before we start lifting. Me, that's just my gathering on that.
But all of these others are camps that these people pay taxes on, you know?
But they, I know it's a camp, and they got another place where they live, and they don't even have to go down there if they don't. Back in my district back there, these people live there, they don't have no other home, that's where they live at. They're traveling through water to get to their home.
I realize that,
You know.
but this, go ahead.
What Joe makes a valid point, and that's part of that intercoastal being so high there. Where Butch is talking about, it's not influenced by the intercoastal, it's influenced by the lake. Yeah. So, I mean, there is some sort of difference there, but he's right. I mean, we got roads, Kirk got roads, or Thomas, I don't know where that district is, but out in not Grangerville, but Fruitdale.
Yeah. I think if we're gonna live, we need to get somebody to look at it and go by and enforce it, so before we start doing just one road here, one road there. And let's, do a little further, get Emily to go look and give us something better than just pick a road and lift it, because they got a little flood problem going on with some camps and very few residents at one spot.
Now, gentlemen, if I may say something, Mr. Sonny, this was an issue that we were looking at before the storm. Now that we had Hurricane Laura make landfall, there is going to be ample opportunity to secure funding to do like hazard mitigation projects, use some disaster funding to make improvements to these roads. What we can do is get a list, a running list of all of the roads that need to be elevated, that have flooded, and when we start applying for long-term recovery projects, we can put those on the list and do some. Yes. Yes.
I'm good with that.
So, okay, Mr. Butch, we'll work on that list of those roads that need to be elevated. We have PW funding, we'll have hazard mitigation funding, and we'll have disaster CBG funding that we can pull together to do some road improvement
Do we
projects.
have that list already, or is it already doing
No, sir, there's not a list. I know where a lot of the roads are in each district, and I can rewrite them and make sure that we don't miss anything, and I can kind of get with y'all for y'all's input and make sure I don't miss anything.
Now, we do have a capital outlay list that we approve every year where we prioritize roads. That's a working list that we'll take into consideration, and then there'll be we'll have to make some adjustments to it. We'll be taking into consideration how many roads have flooded, how much FEMA PW funds we'll have, and we'll adjust that list. But we do have a working list of 3-year improvement, capital outlay improvement plan that we usually, as soon as we have funding available, we look to that list, and that's how we determine which roads we
Yeah, but
secure funding for.
this list we want y'all to compile would be
Yes.
a elevation because of the storm.
Yes, yes, sir.
And like his road and the roads Joe's talking about would all to me, should qualify. So, he's got roads too, I mean, Sonny and Johnson Bike that would qualify in that area where the we need to compile all the roads and somehow or another present that to FEMA, see if they can help.
And that's what we're working on right now. We have engaged a private firm to help do damage assessments to all these roads, document everything that's been underwater. The first step will be applying for PW funding. But then anything that we didn't get from FEMA, or there's a gap in that funding, we'll turn around and apply for either hazard mitigation funds or disaster-related CDBG funds to close that gap. But it's not, I won't lie to you guys, though, this is gonna be a long process. This isn't something that's gonna happen in 3 months. You're looking more like, 9 to 18 months before you'll actually see that funding materialize, where we'll have construction crews out there making the improvements.
We need to make a separate list other than just parish roads and personal roads and private roads and stuff like that. But we also have a lot of roads, state roads, that have been on the list, as you know, for many, many years. Like the one coming in Highbury, which goes underwater every time it rains. I mean, this is a state highway. No, it's not parish road, but it needs to be mitigated somehow through the state. It is a state responsibility. We have talked to them several different times before, and it's not effective. It's done by, it's ran several different places that we know in our parish, and the state road is being compromised. So those roads need to be put up there as well as the private roads.
Yes, sir. Actually, Mr. McGee and I and Representative Representative Boyock did talk to the Secretary of DOTD Friday about those issues, about these state roads that are essentially slowing our recovery. We can only recover it as quickly as DOTD can let us in, can make improvements to their roads. They're aware of the problem, and we did ask for a seat at the table. We told them that if they were going to pursue federal funding to make improvements, that we wanted to participate. We wanted to even maybe allocate some of our own parish funds to help leverage federal funds to get these roads improved, because it's important to us as Cameron Parish residents.
One question I have, if these raising of these roads is going to be part of the storm hardening, we have to have an estimated amount of raising, and it's just not just in materials, but how we need to raise them so that they will support us in our efforts.
Yes, sir.
Yes, absolutely.
Is that the engineer?
We would have to hire out to get that information.
Engineer, anytime you're gonna go to big money or try to get money from the federal, you're gonna have an engineer on board. But some sort of way, we ought to be able to assure an engineer to give us a preliminary.
We have to have some type of study to say it needs to be X amount of feet higher to prevent flooding or whatever reason is on the state of the water when there is flooding. But we're gonna need that data to go out and fund it, so.
I do have some of the pictures and different things from whether it was Farby or Cindy or in past on some of the roads too. When I did the meeting on Tuesday, not with FEMA, but with the people that we actually have hired to help, I did explain that to them, and we did talk about a few of the roads and stuff, and they said the more information that I can provide in the past is better.
I want to speak to the rest of us. Is there any way you have a report on that by next week, or is that too soon?
We could work on it. I mean, we're not gonna have the footage or nothing, but you try just the list of the name of the roads?
Yeah, step one.
Oh, yeah.
Step
Yes, sir.
one.
Yes, sir.
Good. Yep. Anybody else? The next, Jenny Jones?
Yes, sir. I believe it was the meeting before the storm, the jury voted to tear down the old district attorney's office, which is on the north side of the courthouse. And as y'all can see, it made it through the storm again, but was damaged. And the reason why the building has been such a liability to the parish is because after Rita, it was repaired with Stafford Act funds. So as long as you remain the owner of it, you have to have flood insurance on it. Now, it is elevated, but it's not elevated to the required level. So the flood insurance got really expensive, maybe $30,000, something like that. We had explored the possibility that we would lease that building so we would get some income, at least hopefully to offset the cost of the insurance. We didn't have any takers on that, and so that's when the jury voted to demolish the building. I am told that the United States Postal Service is very interested in that.
Yes, we talked about that last meeting. Tammy was here, she mentioned it to us.
Right. If you want, you could look at this two ways. Number one, if you wanted to sell it to them, you could assign your insurance claim to them and let them fool with that. Now, if they bought it, they would not have to provide flood insurance for it because they wouldn't be the owner that receives Stafford Act funds. So it might be very attractive. Y'all really, if you got rid of it, you can't. I think you could do a CEA because it is surplus property where you sell it to them for next to nothing, and then they have a place to have a post office and you don't have to provide insurance on it. And I think it's a win-win for everybody. If they aren't interested in that, you can lease it again. You don't have to go back through that public bid process. It's a CEA, it would be a CEA that you would do. You might want to say, well, lease it to you for the cost of insurance.
So, I mean, we'll share what you recommend.
Which I think is less than what they are paying now in return for the post office. And they really wanted something that was elevated. So if y'all like, I would be glad to talk to the people at the postal service that I spoke to a lot after we were probably got all the people now. But we'd like to explore the possibility if they'd be interested in either of those options, as long as it's okay with y'all, that you would be open to either one.
Yeah, I feel that.
See,
First, sell it to them.
Yeah,
If we do sell it, though, I would like them to think about if they decided to get to a new building or something else, that then something back to like it is in town or whatever.
I'll work on that.
And right, where they, somewhere down.
They have to keep a post office open again to see if they're selling. So I don't know if they can go anywhere, but you never know.
Obviously, down the road, we might want to do it in the office,
Right.
but we want to be with them.
We had looked into, we got pretty far with Francis Driven Books, but that never did materialize, so. Y'all want to go ahead and talk about the hospital? Okay, right now, at the hospital, we have, well, let me back up. After Rita, we had, something called a DMAC unit, which is, a mobile unit for urgent care, state bites, things like that, and it's manned by the Army, you know, the Corps of Engineers, or somebody in the Army mans that. It's like a MASH unit, you know, like you see on TV. Okay, this time we've got what we call a Western shelter, and it is a big tent, and Ms. Claire, our court director, secured the donation of a solar-powered generator. So it is cooled by a solar-powered generator. Don't have to keep filling it up with fuel. And we had to take it down because of bait. So yesterday, we put it back up. Today, the staff, and this is going to be manned by personnel at South Carolina. So our doctors aren't giving that. It's like an urgent care facility. It's not a real emergency room, so you can't get the x-rays or anything. It's for urgent care, just like what you would go to in Lake Charles. But it is free. So if anybody needs that medical care while they're down here working, they can go out there. It'll be free of charge. We hope to have it up and running by next week. We evacuated a lot of our equipment from the hospital, so they're bringing a lot of it back in to be using there, and I think Dr. Rushing is taking the lead on staffing the Western Center. Now, what is step 2? The problem or the challenge that we're facing now is that we only get 75% reimbursement from FEMA so far. We have our insurance waiver, we've had insurance, but it'd be very difficult for the hospital service district to pay 25% of the cost of the hospital. Last time we spent about $27 million on the hospital. So we were talking about some other possibilities. Now, we already plan to have what they call a temporary emergency room. This is several modular units put together, which that's what the hospital is now. The hospital is 42 modular units, but it's going to have several modular units put together, but it's going to have everything that the state requires an emergency room to have, a licensed emergency room. So it'll have x-ray, it'll have lab, you know, it'll have inpatient beds and observation beds, and it'll have all that. It'll probably have, the rule is that you have to have at least 10 beds. We're working on a waiver for that, but that's a federal requirement. So I don't know if we'll be able to do that. I mean, I think 3 beds. Anyway, so we're going to have that, and we have started making proposals for that. There's about 6 or 8 companies that build these modular temporary emergency rooms. It'll have to be elevated. So, we plan on doing that, we're in the process of doing that. We don't know how much 25% of that is gonna cost. Of course, we're working on CDBG grant money to make up that 25%, but worst case scenario, we don't get that. We hope to have enough for the hospital to bill 25% of that temporary emergency room. Now, the statute says you can only have that in place for 2 years. We're working on a waiver for that too. So it might be, folks, that that's our permanent hospital. Is, you know, if we don't get other sources of funding, we don't want to rebuild a hospital as big as it is now, but we would like to build it higher than it is now, which costs a lot. So, I just want to let y'all know what we're working on, but as of next week, you will have urgent care facilities in Lower Cameron. I think Leslie sent a thing to Facebook or to OEP also that you can get free medical care in the at the Parish Health Unit. That's the LSU. I think they call it an FPC. But it's a health unit type thing where they have the same kind of urgent care facilities. We wanted, at the hospital, we wanted to have our presence back in the parish as soon as possible. So that's why we're taking this route in a manner with our own employees. It's still gonna be free. We won't be charging anything until we have a real emergency room in place. But that's where we're going, and we'll keep y'all posted as things develop further. I know it's not on the agenda, but I just wanted to say, I learned today that the Ag Center in Grand Lake is available. I spoke to all my employees on the way down here, and we're going to move in there. We need to have someone to help us move our files and our computers and all our equipment, but we're going to be there, and until we can get here. What we can't do here is computer. We have to have access to NCIC, and it's called Crimes, our program that we have in the sheriff's office that has all our file information. But if the sheriff is making arrests, we need to make the files. We hope next week to get new court dates from the judge so we can start rescheduling everything that we've had to cancel. So that's what we're working on now. Y'all have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Let's go back to the hospital.
All right.
The hospital, how many patients did we have in the hospital last year?
Oh, I have all that. I know we usually do 1,500 patients in the emergency room per year. That's what our average was. I don't know how many we did last year.
What does that hospital cost us every year?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Nothing at all.
No, not you. The police jury has never paid a penny for that hospital. It's funded by the hospital service district has a tax which supplements the management company, which is someone from Creo now, thank God, also operates a psychiatric facility in Lake Charles. And we've always used the money from that place to help run the hospital. So, but the police jury does not pay
The
anything.
people of the parish.
I'm sorry?
Lower County.
Lower County.
It's the hospital service district is from right on the other side of the ferry to the Gibbstown Bridge is what our hospital service district is. Hackberry is actually in another hospital service district, in the Cowham Hospital Service District. And Johnson Bayou has their own hospital service district, which, even though they don't have a hospital, they have a tax which supports the clinic. Thank you.
Next one up is Robert Kidder.
Oh, yes, sir. Katie, do you mind setting this up and let me switch my source here? Excuse me, no. Yes. talk amongst yourself. There we go. Can you guys see the screen okay? Was it done? Go. Robert Kidder is my name. I know many of you. You may know that I've been associated with Cameron Answers, the nonprofit that was Laura Leach established several years ago. And last year, we established a CTA with the parish to find tenants for the development called, Lighthouse Bend. So we've been trying to do that. We're about ready to do that. And so I thought I'd bring everyone up to date. I'm trying to stand out of the way of the computer. Everyone up to date on kind of what's been going on here. Just to be brief, we've done architectural and engineering drawings on the buildings that are going to be built there. We've chosen the name Lighthouse Bend, if you can see. Now we are creating our request for proposals from the prospective tenants to the facility that is going to be built there. The restaurant portion of the thing is really kind of the lead pig here. We want to find that tenant first, and we're kind of concentrating there. There will be other amenities that will also need management, but for right now, we're concentrating on finding a tenant for the largest of the facilities. And so we've created a request for proposals to get to a mailing list of restaurateurs and developers and investors, that sort of thing. Honestly, from Houston to Mobile, although we'll be concentrating on those from Louisiana. We expect the largest response to be from folks from Louisiana. In order to promote and encourage people to submit a proposal for becoming that tenant, we have created a website to attract them. We've also created some advertising content that in order to market the RFP, in other words, to say, hey, you restaurateur there, would you please go to this website and download the RFP, study it, and we encourage you to make a proposal. And then when that process has taken place, we would present the best candidates to you guys for approval. That's the bulk of what we've been doing. Naturally, the pandemic set us back, quite a ways in terms of the number of months where we kind of forced into a hiatus. And if you'll think about it a bit, both for the pandemic and for the recent hurricane, the approaching a restaurateur to build a restaurant is a daunting process right now, because so many of them have problems, just trying to keep their restaurants open, just trying to keep their businesses open. They'll undoubtedly will lose a lot of restaurants, especially, as far as that's concerned. And of course, having the hurricane last month just exacerbates that situation. So it's a tough sell, is all I was trying to tell you. What you're looking at now are some pages from the RFP website that we've created for Lighthouse Bend. You'll see the, can I do this with my mouse? I don't think so. You'll see, I want to point to an arrow right here. Follow the bouncing ball there on that. This is a sample of what the home page to the RFP website would look like. This is an animation or fly-through that probably most of you have seen or are familiar with, but this may be the first time that a restaurateur or another developer or investment group sees that. So I'm just showing you the top portions of these pages here. Homepage, then we go to inviting people to create their vision. You'll notice this block here is going to appear on every page. It says download RFP. What we're wanting to do in order to capture the contact information for anyone who's interested is that if they want to read the RFP, they've got to give us their email address first. And so we'll be building a database of those email addresses and communicating with them. Because I'm employed as a contractor by Cameron Answers, those email addresses will come to me, and I'll filter them to the rest of our group here so that we can know who's real and who's not real. Maybe the real thing is with the RFP, you want to see the color of their money, right? So anyway, this is about, this copy is about creating a vision in the minds of the prospects that we're talking to, and then a little bit there at the bottom about what kind of food might be best, most successful in a restaurant. Then we go on to describe the property itself and describe the building, its interior, what's there. You'll see in the middle down there, if you're able to read it, it says site plan, location map, and floor plan. Each of those things are clickable. We suggest again, and you'll see the download RFP is at the top again. We're suggesting to the folks where their customers may come from. That's where we describe all of the industrial work that's going on here, the workers who come and go, the traffic that the parish has, and the visitors that they can expect, as a result. The big blue box at the bottom is some data that we pay for. Actually, that's another story. Some data that tells you how many folks visit restaurants in a 50-mile, 100-mile radius, that sort of thing. What the incomes are. In other words, we're telling the prospect there that there are more customers available to them than they might think. Next is an explanation of why the story. How did this come to be? It tells the natural gas story, the LNG story, the offshore energy story. It tells about the ship channel, where we stand at present, and then a little bit on why are we calling this thing Lighthouse Bend. This next slide is our page in on the website. Talks about our different renderings, which many of you have seen. But again, our prospects may not have seen it, okay? I'll just drop a name, never met the man, but let's say you're Kilman Pativa, who owns Golden Nugget, amongst all his different brands and flags of restaurants that he has here. He hasn't seen any of these images, His development people haven't seen any of them. We'll call on them and make sure that they do. All of the images are clickable, so that Max, if you were going to open the restaurant here and you had to go make a presentation to the bankers that you might want these images to put in the presentation. That's why we're making them downloadable for you, to do that. There's kind of the bottom half of that page there that talks about all of the amenities that we have for lease. Last page is just a contact form so that we begin to build our database of qualified prospects. The real thing that we want them to do is download this page that says request for proposals. It tells them what we expect of them, what kind of, how they would be graded on their proposals. We want to see their financial statements. We want to see just who rises to the top there. So based upon the presentations that we receive from this RFP page here is when we would move forward with the powers that be. You guys, Venture Global will have some say-so, and Cameron Answers will just kind of, we're the worker bees here, so we'll sit at the table and make things move along. So this is really why this whole website exists, so that people will download this RFP, fill it out, make a presentation. Now they know they're competing with other folks who want the same thing. In a similar way, the website will contain an FAQ page, frequently asked questions. And so we attempt to answer many of those questions here. I'm just moving along here. Here's an example of how we're going to advertise this on different websites. We have a budget established for it that's been approved. So here is, let's say hypothetically that we went to Time Magazine's website and bought banner ads there. That allows that. And this is the banner ad is clickable, sends you right to the website. We'll offer media content on various platforms through our YouTube channel. And those platforms, it might be YouTube, it might be Instagram, it might be Facebook, Twitter, that sort of thing that we expect. This is what's called an e-blast. So we've got we'll develop this email address to all of these hundreds of prospects to begin with, and share the Lighthouse Bend story and the opportunity there. Again, we're all wanting them to just download the RFP. Sponsors post on various platforms, the same small ones there that say that you click here. This is, you want a new restaurant in a new place, this is the way to do it. Timeline is this, and this is our current best effort at a timeline. This week we hope to finalize these marketing materials that I just showed you. Next week we actually hope to launch the RFP website, issue press releases, execute the media plan that I was telling you about. And then through the end of the month and November is when we get busy with it, to find our prospects, talk to our prospects, encourage them to submit their proposals. We give them, you saw the FAQ section there. If you had a question that wasn't on the frequently asked questions, it's up to me to go find that answer and post it to the website so that everybody gets to see the answer at the same time. There's no behind the scenes going on here. To date, we have approached no restaurateurs, no developers, no investors about this project. We want everybody to get a fair shot at it, see it at the same time. So by November 16th, all your questions need to be in. By December 4th, it closes, and all submittals are going to be sent to us by digital means, turn it into something rather than getting a bunch of stuff in the mail. December 5th through the 20th, our scoring committee will meet. Who is on the scoring committee is up to us, but I think it would logically include a mixture of folks from this organization. Venture Global is going to want to have a say-so in it. We may have some input. There could be some others on that committee to score the proposals and bring it down to some finalists that we want to talk to. Between December 20th and January 20th, we hope to have chosen that finalist and begun getting our leases drawn up. Hopefully by January, we can come back to you and present the candidate that we've chosen and get you guys to bless it. January 18th, tentatively scheduled as a groundbreaking event to have a big media event. And then in February, the new tenant for the restaurant especially gets to sit with the architects and say, here, I really want a wall of deer heads up there, on the inside. We're giving them the building, but the decor, there's some things there. So that's kind of where we are on it, and I'm eager to take questions, but I appreciate the opportunity, Ms. Katie, to stood here before you to say whatever.
Just for Robert and I talked a little bit about this, and I talked to Katie. Robert's timeline is a little aggressive, and I don't know if we're going to be able to. To me, there are some little things that do need to work out. The biggest thing is just confirming, because this is a somewhat unique project in the sense that the land that the buildings will be built on was leased by Benjamin. And then my understanding is what the project will work, the potential will turn over the lease to the parish, but then continue paying the lease. And then the buildings, the improvements will then be owned by the parish. Okay, that's obviously going to be subject to the lease that Venture entered into with the landowner. So we need to confirm with Venture that their lease with the landowner gives them ownership, which would then give the parish ownership of the improvements, which would then give the parish the authority to then look for an operator through, as of right now, the way it's set right now, we have to use the public lease law, which requires a bid process and sealed bids and open, publicly openings and sealed bids and all that. We have some ideas with Robert about, and Ms. Jones, about ways, there's some economic, industrial inducement statutes that you can, that aren't as restrictive as the public lease laws. But those things do take time and might require the jury to create or appoint an economic development task force, something like that.
Or you might be able to, if you like, to determine fisheries.
That's the other.
Support.
Yeah.
But you can't have the operator chosen with a request for proposals and a selection committee. It's gonna have to have some kind, even if you transfer it to court, there has to be public process and everything has to be out in the open, so we have to, we can't do it that way, we have to do it another way. But first thing we gotta do, which we've asked for, is we gotta see the agreement between Venture Global and the private landowner to see about the ownership of the stuff.
And that request has been, is my understanding, the jury staff has made that request to Venture, and we're just waiting on a response from them on that. Now, I do think this is my personal opinion, that if we do not call that website an RFP, and it's just an advertisement, that there's no, I don't think there'd be no reason why we couldn't have a website up advertising the property. But it just would not be a formal request for proposal. But it could be a website that's up and has, get the emails and build the database, so that when we do make a formal request for proposal or the public lease laws, we have that database that people send out.
Can you explain how
This
this
is not really important right now, though.
Because it can,
There's a lot of things we need to discuss, and this is not enough.
Yeah, we'll work this out.
that's fine. I
It's
just,
the exact same request for proposal process we did for the Inland Fisheries, selecting an operator, so we can work that out
yeah,
though. outside.
yeah, it's just, as far as the website's concerned, it's more of a nomenclature issue. Just, I wouldn't call it an RFP.
Any other questions, Mr. Pierce?
Thank you for your time, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Next up, Josh Hightower.
All right, my name is Josh Hightower. I'm the director of Parish Mosquito Control, and I'm here to give an update on what we sprayed and how our operations have been going since Hurricane Laura. Well, we started spraying a week after Hurricane Laura started, and early on we weren't using any trucks. We were just using the airplanes, and we have a contract with Dynamic Aviation, and they're assisting us, and we're also using our own planes. And our top priorities are to give relief to people working in their yards, the relief workers, and also protect livestock. There's been a number of reports from different parishes that cows suffocate with mosquitoes and stuff like that. So that was one of our top priorities, especially early on. And so far, we sprayed 14 nights with the plane, and 11 nights for the trucks. And the price per acre, using the contract, is 72 cents per acre. And then the price of dive room that we're using, it's coming out of our inventory, and we bought it like at a 2018 price. We're getting a really good price right now on the dive room, and it's 207 gallons per gallon. And then on my report, it shows every area that was sprayed each night. And then basically after a week after we started spraying, the mosquito population, they dropped down to about normal. But then beta hit, and we're just experiencing a new hatch. It's just started yesterday. Like a new hatch just started. And the areas that are the worst right now are where the tide came up real high, like Johnson Bayou, Cameron, Grand Chenier, Hackberry, Big Lake. So that's going to be our top priorities for the next couple of days. And to date, for the month of September, we've treated 640,333 acres by air support, and the cost of that is $828,663. And that's where we stand to date right now. Y'all have any questions?
Keep spraying.
All right.
Thank God. Yes, sir. We've had this discussion, and under normal circumstances, we go by the county. I'm asking you to stay ahead of the county. Keep spraying. People are already stressed as bad as they can be. We don't need any added stress if we can help it. If we get issues with money, let us know. We'll figure out something.
All right. Okay.
Thank you, Doc.
All right. Thank y'all.
All right, before we move to the speakers, I have a request from somebody asking if we could have a list of do's and don'ts for reentry. And I'm assuming that this is probably going to be in the beach area more than any place else. People are unsure of what they can do and what they can't do. I know the permitting office right now is swamped, and there are going to be probably some new or adjusted permitting issues coming up. We're not at that point today. We could talk about that for days, but I know that's why a lot of you guys are here. You want to hear answers. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have a lot of answers. But if we could get a list of do's and don'ts of things they can do, or what they can expect from the parish as far as enforcement or anything like that, it would be really good for the people.
Okay, and I can add something to that, Mr. Sunny. We have requested, starting 3 weeks ago, both Danny, Ashley from the OEP office, and myself have requested meetings with FEMA and GOSEP officials to discuss temporary housing versus for direct housing assistance from FEMA and all temporary housing. They will not schedule a meeting with us. It's my understanding that they have met several times with Calcasieu Parish. They are meeting today with Beauregard Parish and tomorrow with the Vernon, and they still have yet to schedule a meeting. Both Danny and I were on the phone till late last night, talking to every contact that we had with GOSEP and FEMA, expressing how disgusted we are with their lack of effort for scheduling the meeting, and we're not really sure why they're not scheduling the meeting, but we are working on it. But we cannot get any type of FEMA temporary housing assistance without that meeting. So I hate to say the ball's in their court and we just have to wait and react, but that's where we are. But we are working with them, and we are calling and complaining and trying to get those meetings scheduled. So hopefully next week we'll be able to schedule the meeting. As soon as we can get the meeting scheduled and we know what the temporary housing is going to look like in Cameron, then we might have to just schedule a special meeting with you, George, to discuss it. But we can't talk about it right now until we have that meeting. So that's what we're waiting on, and that's unfortunately where we are.
I'm to add about the temporary housing, but I think more of the questions they have is going to be reentry.
Well, we have
When I go back to
ordinances.
my site, what can I do on my site without a permit or with a permit? Or do I need a permit?
I'll let Miles handle that, but we have ordinances in place for permitting. We've only waived the fee so far, but permitting ordinances and policies and procedures is where we are right now. We haven't made any changes to that. Miles, if you want to touch on kind of the high notes on what you can and can't do, what needs a permit or not when it comes to repairs.
Any home in a special flood hazard area is supposed to have a permit, okay?
And even the ones that's doing repairs, it's not a special put hazard area. If it's got a lot of damage, you're supposed to be doing a permit on it for repair, okay? Lower Cameron had a lot of water, more than everybody knows. For them, they're gonna have to get their sewer serviced. They had to make sure any electrical they got wet is fixed, you know, that's below, to do them permits. I'm working with the state right now for wind loads on canopies, because that's all the calls we get, okay? And we're gonna permit them. We are gonna be doing wind loads on canopies, so that question's answered. And we're gonna start permitting Lower Cameron Parish now. So that's what all the calls are. If they want wind loads on canopies, they won't get them. The state, they don't dictate the building codes how to enforce canopies. It's just not there. I work with Baton Rouge, we talked several times. He's figured out a way, he's gonna send me that letter and say that we're gonna include canopies in this. So we're gonna start enforcing. They need to do permits. If they're doing stuff right now, I can't help it. It's like Kevin said, we're still in a disaster mode. I can't go do enforcement when I'm trying to get power to everybody in Hackberry, Grand Lake, Sweet Lake. We're working that area hard because the power's coming out. We're gonna work the south hard too, the same way. But they need to do permits. Everybody's supposed to do a permit. Okay? But if it's minor damage, then we can do that, we can do without. The farmer will come in there and do a lot of photos and a lot of assessments for us. And they just went on the map, there's green, yellow, orange, and red. Red's totally destroyed. Green, they don't even need to do a permit. So we got something to work with. It didn't hit every structure, but we got something to work with. So we're there. The elevations ain't changing, building codes ain't changing. It's staying the same. So whatever the elevation is now, it's still the same elevation next year and the year after. So if you need elevations down, your house, you know what it means, you're good to go. Just do a repair permit, which you ain't gotta worry about going higher. And if you need to know what your requirement is, I can tell everybody, you go to LSU Ag Center website, go to services and look up flood map. It'll tell you your requirement. If you have trouble doing that, call 775-1800.
Now, our permit staff, along with all of our police staff, continues to work 7 days a week, 8 to 4. They're answering phones, they're answering emails, they will schedule appointments with you. Actually, yesterday, Wendy and I were in Hackberry and we had 2 walk-in permits in Hackberry yesterday. So the information's available on our website, the checklist is available on our website, and like I said, they can call the permitting office if they have any questions. But you just have to give us a call. Now, if you want us to have a little one-sheeter, Mr. Sunning, about what he just said, our staff can definitely type that up and we can make a brochure and we can post it on Facebook, post it on our website, and we can maybe make them available at some of our temporary office locations. If that's something that you're requesting, we can certainly make that happen.
We got checklists for anything you need to do. We can put it out there. We can put do's and don'ts together. Well, that's fine, and put it out there.
Is there anything that I missed, guys? I don't want to invite everybody in the audience to speak, but if there's anything we missed on this reentry?
If you're substantially damaged by wind, or by water, or by tornado, or whatever, if you're substantially damaged over 50%, okay? And you don't, your home is below the base flood elevation, you're required to bring it up to code, okay? Now, there's ways you can work on that. Get a value of your home. What's the value of your home? If you come from an architect, engineer, you contractor can tell you the value of your home. You can use a tax assessment value. Sometimes that's too low, okay? So a contractor comes in and says, look, you know, I think your home is worth this per square foot, or an architect says your home is this per square foot, and the contractor says, well, I can fix this. You know, you got a $100,000 home, I can fix it for $30,000. That's less than 50%. You don't have to worry about elevating. Okay? And I think it's still gonna come in and do an assessment of every structure, but that's how you, if they deem it 60%, and you say, no, my contractor says I can fix this for this, and that's how you work that out.
That's basically what we're doing before.
We've done it before. Yeah, your house burned, that's what you had to do.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I think to simplify this, if we want to do it right, we want to start construction and having to change, that's all we want, just a list of do's, you know, or the don'ts. We just want to know how to do it correctly. In a simplified way.
All right.
talk to him, could I ask, is the assessor here?
The newly elected. Is Orson here?
I just wanted to ask you, because this affects everybody in the parish, how are we gonna be assessed on our camps? I'm a retired assessor from the Dominion Parish, and, the rule is, the law is, everything, the condition of all the property is January 1 of each year. And I don't think by January 1, we're gonna be having livable camps.
They're going around now and reducing everybody's residential assessment by at least 50%, most of
About
50%.
50, all right.
For this year. For this year.
Now, for next year, the way I understand the law, the 24 years, it's not livable yet. It should not be put on the tax roll. I just would like to know how.
That's a question on tax.
Yeah.
Hey, are you here, Daryl? Daryl, are you in the meeting? Come in the meeting. Okay. The newly elected assessor. I think he knows a lot of the answers to that, though. He's been working, even though he's not in office yet, he's been going through training and figuring out how to handle it.
Because this affects everybody.
There he is.
Yes, sir. My question is, I understand now you're gonna give us like 50% reduction on that current assessment
Yeah,
for 2020.
let me get up here and talk about that.
Regarding the reassessment from the disaster, let me first state, Darrell Williams, I take office January the 1st of this coming year. So the current assessor is Orson Billings, he's still in there. And we've been working, we've been talking. Right now, the discussion regarding the disaster is on residential properties, 70% reduction. For the affected areas, Grand Lake, Cameron, Lower Cameron, Johnson Valley, and Hackberry.
That's for this year.
For this coming year.
Okay. You said coming year.
In 2020, this year.
Okay. Now what about 21? Like us that are not, and there's no way we can be finished by January 1.
Now, once, this is gonna be original based on drive-bys, based on, right now, the staff is doing drive-bys to get a level of damage, and basically every structure in the parish is damaged. Some 70, some 100 total losses. To do those individual, that's gonna take time, so we have to do just the overall write-off, and it's in the law. And so, those will stay in effect, those assessments, until either the next reassessment or everything's totally rebuilt, but they're gonna stay in effect for years, at least until the next reassessment, which is 2024.
Because this is very important because that affects the jury, school board, hospital boards.
No, it is very important.
Yeah.
Now, that's the current discussion there. Now, the tax roll, these assessments have to be done by, I have it written down. By October 20th, the open books period starts where people can review their assessments and protest, because the next police jury meeting, November 10th, will be the board of review meeting, and they'll approve the tax roll. But it'll have those adjustments in that tax roll. So but they're starting to input that, but 70% is where basically it is. And it will affect the taxing business. It will.
Commercial property?
But we've had that commercial property, they're still talking about that, but it'll probably be done on a case-by-case basis, where you'll have to submit your damages and request obsolescence. And you got damages, you're gonna get it. I mean, you know. But on the residential properties, which are so many of, you just have to do it over, just right now to follow. Now, some will have more than that 70%, some will go off the tax roll, probably still keeping it value to maintain their homestead exemption. So that's, as of right, that's where it is right now.
Okay, so for 21, it's gonna be a drive-by view. When I was assessor for Rita, I fought the insurance companies because they only wanted to give exemptions for the residents or any improvement on the tax roll for 1 year. And I fought it because I thought we had minimal damage on our residents. But the Farm Bureau and all these big companies, they only wanted to give the residents a break for 1 year. And like I got up and argued, it took us 8 months to get a carpenter. So they really agreed for 3 years. Now, if you're, at one of your meetings, if you could bring this up, because a lot of these people with damage will not get help before 8 months.
Along those lines, and we've had those discussions along those lines within the office. Basically, there's such a level of destruction for such a vast area. Yes, I mean, to be able to complete your project, your rebuild, your repairs, it's gonna take years. You know, and so that's why, you know, until basically areas are, in my view, and the authority I have as an assessor, when those areas are totally rebuilt, then we'll look at re-implementing the reassessed values as of before the storm. But not until those areas are rebuilt.
Keep that in mind because they'll fight you, I promise you.
And Darrell, do you have a plan for getting that information out to the public?
Yeah, I've been working with the office to do that, and to the point where, you know, I've had discussions with them to actually go in there and start working. And, you know, start doing this now. This is going to prepare for the next 4 years. Right now, this is where we're at, not in it. So I'm, you know, once it's established right now that this is what we're doing, which I'm giving you information based on the discussions we're having and starting to input those new values, then I'm gonna put that out, even if I have to do it on my own as assessor-elect, you know, here in the next couple of weeks before this open books process starts. So.
I think it's important for
Is to develop exactly what we're doing and how much, and that's just starting to happen here in the last couple of weeks when the guys actually went in around and started doing drive-bys to see which, you know, I mean, it's evident, you know, I live in Grand Lake, so I've seen what we have in Grand Lake when we went to Hackberry the other day. I mean, you know, we did maybe, you know, a third of it in one day, you know. There were more 100% damage than there were little. You know.
When you get that information out,
Oh, and I'm also going to get numbers to kind of quantify what those effects are going to be, and that's going to be in the next couple of weeks. And when I get that, I'm going to for sure send it to the districts where y'all will know this is what they're looking at.
that's good. Any questions for Thanks, Bill. All right, we only have one card signed. Wait, I take it back. Go ahead, sir. I apologize.
I want to clarify the fact on cannabis. He's saying we can pull permits or we can't pull permits right now.
Can.
Can?
Yes, sir, we're gonna start permitting.
I can go over and get one this afternoon.
We gotta have staff plans, let me window.
All right.
You don't have to go, you email them or call them.
No email?
Let's start that working.
Appreciate it. Any other questions, real quick? We only have one speaker that signed up. Mr. Greg, you got your saying?
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the police jury. Greg Gashasan, owner and developer of Cameron Speaks, multiple homes here in Lower Cameron, as well as Cameron Landing Restaurant and Bar, Cameron Park, and also Cameron Lodging. As you guys have seen, we've seen the devastation, just as many in this room, in this entire parish. The question that I have today, and I haven't heard any discussion yet, is about debris and cleanup processes, expectations of property owners, locations of where to put things, what that timeline looks like, access to properties when it's a little bit further from the road. Just kind of a general discussion, and I don't know if all those answers have been determined yet, but maybe just some feedback as to what the discussions are in the direction as it relates to that debris cleanup.
Do you want to address that, or is,
We got three people here for questions.
I have some questions.
The cleanup,
I have some questions.
Mike.
Can we start with just what the process is for the owners and residents?
Morning, everyone. The process as far as right now, what we're currently working with, all debris needs to be placed in the right of way of the property. We cannot leave the right of way with our equipment, so if our trucks in the road is what we can reach right off the side. We are currently working with Ms. Katie and trying to proceed with PBDRs, which is private property debris removal. That's a whole other process where all the homes will go through an assessment. Monitoring firm will go and assess them. Assessments are sent to FEMA. FEMA will then give them a green light or a red light on what can and cannot be removed, which then we will be granted permission to enter the property. But generally speaking, that takes a fair amount of time. So right now, anything that you can get to the right of way needs to be placed in the right of way. Keeping debris separate helps us out quite a bit. Vegetative debris versus your C and D, and then white field or anything like that needs to be kept separate as well.
Can you speak up?
Just into the microphone.
Sorry.
I got a question real quickly, a little further. You say in the right of way, and how far the truck can reach? Can you put that in?
Roughly 20 feet, 20 feet out.
Into the road.
No big feet that we have here is because of the elevation, that's your ditch lines. It's something we've dealt with quite often in Louisiana, and again, that's why we started right off the bat pushing on PPDR, because so many times it's not feasible to take this debris and put it in the ditch lines, and then you're making yourself more susceptible to it.
To start with, you saying that it helps to have it separated in the beginning. That would be really helpful for a lot of people. We never got that statement. We got, push everything to the ditch. That's what we got.
Actually, there were some PSAs sent to Miss Katie that should have been sent out, but not all.
Yes,
Mr. Curtis didn't get them.
Sorry, Mr. Curtis. We did put it on our website. We put it through Facebook. And then KPLC was advertising some of those charts, like this is how you separate your debris. They're not saying they won't pick the debris up if it's mixed, but it makes it go quicker if it is already separated.
I have a question for you. I watch these trucks. Now, the trucks that you're using is a double truck. One with the grapple in one container and then another empty container.
For the most part, yes, we do have some skid steers and trailers as well.
So ask me this question. Why is it that you pull up on one pile of trash that's this big, and you pick that pile of trash up, and 20 feet away, there's another pile of trash that's this big with the same type of trash? And once you pick this little pile up, then you haul butt down the road somewhere and nobody can find it.
Is that our parish
No,
one or our
that's
state
their
one?
pieces. Don't take up to nobody.
No, I'm asking, is it a state
I
road?
want to know why this stuff is, why one pile is picked up and the next pile is left. And then there's 10 piles down the road, the next thing you know, on the back road, you see that truck again. But he skips all these piles down the road.
That's, I want to say what she's saying, is that there's two different groups.
Companies.
One's for the state right of ways, one's for our right of ways. I think this guy's with our right of ways.
The ones I'm talking about is off the side of the road.
There's road.
Whether Parish Road, State Road, they're on both of them.
Did he just started picking up in Hackberry, what, a couple days ago?
Yesterday, actually.
Yes.
Just started yesterday. You have two separate contracts. We have the parish roads, and then you have a DOT contract, which is a totally separate company.
To answer your question, I don't have a good answer to that. That doesn't make any sense at all.
It didn't make no sense.
I will let you know that Mr. Shane toured the areas that we've currently been picking up on the northeast side, and I believe you will be pretty happy with our completion there, correct, sir?
Okay, so you have a different contract for the state highways.
Yeah, it's totally different.
And that's DOTD that monitors that. We'll have to express your concerns directly to DOT, we will. We'll call them. That company's TFR that has the state DOT contract.
That's correct. There are some, there's correct.
But we will call our regional
I don't want
DOT
to
office.
bounce them around instead of just going along and picking them up. Now, the ones I'm talking about, and I apologize if it wasn't you, but the one on the state highway is the ones I'm talking about, that actually picked that little pile up and then haul butt.
We will call the state today and complain.
Something that, just so you all know as well, I spoke with Mr. Blitcher and Shane yesterday, we had some similar topics come up. All these guys are paid by the cubic yard. It's not by the hour or by the day.
That's what I
So,
know.
yeah, that's why that's why it doesn't make sense to me, because it doesn't no good to pass it up, because the way we run ours, you have to clear your current zone before you get another zone. But you can pass those up, but you're gonna have to come back and get them, and so it doesn't make sense for you or the contractor. 'Cause it's,
Like I said, I'll sit there and watch them do it.
Oh, I don't doubt that you did it, I'm not saying that, for sure.
What debris, what type of debris are you gonna leave outside of the road so that the residents can expect that you're leaving beds, couches, white goods, or is anything being left? Can the residents of Grand Lake be expected that the contractors are gonna come in and clean the road, but are gonna leave certain items? That would be good information to pass on to the residents so that they know, look, at this time, we're not gonna pick up certain items.
Sure.
What are those items?
Well, your propane tank, and see, there's also something that we need to understand as well, is they will be picked up at different times all the time. So we're not gonna mix your veg with your C and D, and then white goods, your white goods will be picked up, but because of Freon, those will be picked up separately where they're handled safely, so we can take them, extract the Freon, extract the putrid food. But generally speaking, your tires are no-go. Propane tanks, stuff along those lines. Household waste, is not.
You say tire, what about camper frames? I see a lot of those pretty good.
That's actually been a topic of discussion here lately, and I don't believe we've got to the final answer on there. A lot of times your mobile homes, your car, anything that's titled, would have to be, considered a derelict vehicle, and so you have to get permission on that titled item to remove it. That's something we've been working on and have not got a final answer on that, to the best of my knowledge.
So you apologize, Katie.
Okay, Mr. Curtis.
I got one complaint that I've been hearing a lot of, most of the roads in the state, you guys have been out there, they're picking up a lot of, road material when they're picking up, okay, and they're digging holes. Is the state gonna come back? I mean, we can question, we need to question, because half of those driveways I'm talking about, we maintain.
Right.
So,
They're tearing up too on ground.
that's the one gripe that I've had so far. And I'm saying in front of him so he can hear it, because he'll have the same issues in his little code.
It's an issue that comes up on each and every job, and
That gentleman back right here had a question.
I got two questions. After Rita, FEMA came in with the leaner and the hanger crew. They came in and went through wood like where I live. I've got trees that's big as around as I am tall right now, that's down. And there's no way I could cut them up and bring them to the road. Is there any allowance for that down the road somewhere? I know what y'all do, but I mean, these are huge trees, and I was just curious.
So we haven't started our leaner hanger work yet. Right now we're concentrating on the debris removal. Again, there's two different phases of that. One, we will do leaner hangers on what we can reach that's in the right of way. Anything that would fall into the public right of way, anything that's on your private property would fall into the PPDR category.
But that will be later on, I'm no hurry, I just need to know.
Yes, sir. We're in the process, like I said, we're working with Ms. Katie in going through the proper steps to.
And one more question. Some of us still are having problems with our insurance companies.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to go start taking tin out of my trees and stuff like that and bring it to the road until I'm finalized with 2 different insurance companies, okay?
Yes, sir.
So in that mind, even though there's nothing in my road right now, but 6 months from now, I can put it on the road and y'all can still be here to pick it up, or we don't know the answer to that.
Very, very common problem, what you're talking about, dealing with the insurance companies, especially in an event of this size, because there's just not enough insurance adjusters to get out and visit everybody. Generally speaking, we do 3 passes and a punch list. So we'll do a first pass, much like the other day, Mr. Shane or a parish representative will go and ride the roads, and we will get cleared on that. Then we go on, once we get a first pass completed in that, certain area or a large scale area there, we would do an announcement to the public that, hey, an official second pass will start on such and such date. At that point, you start your second, same thing with the third. So generally speaking, that allows enough time for all that to happen. On the back end, the PPDR, like I said, the private property debris removal usually handles the rest of it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You're also going to work towards removing large stumps on private property, or we're going to work towards
That'll all be, on the PPDRs, it'll all be addressed, any commercial, or excuse me, not commercial, any house, construction debris, C&D, your trees, all that's assessed, like I said. Once we get we're in the PPDR program, then they will come down, and the monitoring firm usually sets up a tin or a location somewhere that's, made public to everybody. And you then come with your address, your proof of ownership, and you enroll in this program. At which point, then, like I said, the monitoring firm will come to your property, they'll do an assessment, and you can have, I've got these 5 stumps, the barn back here is destroyed, I've got these hangers, and everything will be assessed, documented, sent to FEMA, and then FEMA will grant, what we can or cannot accept.
Do you have an estimate for how many
Holly Beach will be in the next couple of weeks, actually in the next week or so. We're gonna start with, we just started with Asbury yesterday. The 4 trucks, we're out of 2 to 3 more today, so and then we will be heading down to Holly Beach. I know Johnson Beach, the power line company, is down there hot and heavy, so we're kind of.
So we'll
letting
be
them
in
get
about 10 days or so?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Okay. Number 2 question relates back to the trailers. We got boatload of trailers down there. They're pushed to the side of the road. They're expecting it to be picked up. So I appreciate if you can work that out.
We're working on it.
And get a number from you.
I have 2 follow-up questions. One, I heard you talk about some limitation of propane bottles or tires or some of those things. Is there any type of quantity limitation, number 1? Some of the stuff we have is substantial in size. Does it have to be completely crushed and brought to the road? Can it be still somewhat intact but drag, because that's the way it is today?
Sure.
And then also as it relates to single-family properties, you said something about household trash, and we have a lot of tenants and those type of things. We're going to have to dispose of their stuff. We've got the units and the roofs and everything else. All of that is able to be picked up as well, or is there any limitation?
Your household, no. All you're seeing.
Furniture, clothes, stuff that got left.
So the furniture and carpet, we haven't got the answer on that yet.
No, the extended amendment out the other day, saying that it could probably possibly go to a type 3 landfill now, so that gives us more area. Areas 2 though, versus it having to go to a type 4 or 5 landfill. But at this point in time, they still have to be separated based off of where they'll end up.
Roofing material.
That's considered smooth, stuff like that.
As far as your question on the amounts, I mean, as much as you can bring out there, we're gonna pick it up. And like we was talking with Mr. Shane and Butch yesterday, many of those areas that we completed the first pass, the very next day you go through, they're bringing debris, because they only have so much right of way. When they fill it up, we pick it up, so they're gonna fill it up here, and It's pretty common.
Are you referring to commercial or?
Yes, commercial and residential, we have substantial quantities.
So commercials, another item that we're working with Ms. Katie on, it's not
Yeah.
to
That
general
would be
scope.
just like a PCR, something that's filed.
The request has been submitted, but FEMA hasn't made a decision yet, but
So right now, they're just picking up residential.
right now they're supposed to pick up residential. But it should be coming. It's been submitted for 3 weeks now. We should make a decision shortly.
Just hard to tell sometimes. Residential or commercial. And separate column. Okay, so thank you very much for addressing all that.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Is there a dump site where we can bring debris ourselves instead of waiting on somebody to pick it up or whatever from Holly Beach? Is there anywhere we can bring it?
At this point in time, no, we do not have it set up. We are working at getting it set up. We've been working with a lot of landowners and that on trying to facilitate something for you all.
I mean, we can definitely look
Honestly,
at getting that stuff out.
next week, I will have
This
trucks
is being
that
worked on right now for, what you're talking about. To drop that debris off.
Right, that is something that was important to the jury to have two residential dump sites on each side of the lake. The issue that we're running into, which seems to be everyone's issue in Cameron all the time, is DNR coastal use permitting. So, yeah, there are no landfills right now permitted in Cameron Parish. Everything's going through coastal use permitting process. CARE's been working with every single landowner to get that permitted. And we understand that they had, those landfills were used in Hurricane Rita and in Hurricane Ike, and this was never an issue. But DEQ and the state of Louisiana has made it an issue now. So we are working through that, and we understand the frustration. And like I said, CARE's working daily with the staff at DNR, trying to get these permits expedited so we can start hauling debris to final disposal. So as of today, we still have to haul everything out to Calcasieu Parish, which is what's slowing down the debris removal process.
You talk about residential, you know, we had those waste management cans, which I had 2 of them that floated off, I didn't tie them down, but they floated off. Now, us that's vacuum camper trailers on our property with generators, we do have household garbage. Are they gonna start giving us cans again and come back and pick them up beside the road?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Fortunately, it takes a while for the trash cans. They've been ordered since July 10th, and I had the first load show up this morning.
I mean,
So-
waste management will be coming down.
Yes, they have already started.
Okay, that's good.
Call Emily if you need a trash can. If you're in a residential pickup area, call Emily if you need a trash can, and her staff will get it to you. Sorry, Mr. Leslie.
One more thing, do y'all pick up concrete that's within the right of way, or no?
We're not supposed to do concrete, no.
You can bring the household trash to Johnson Bayou Dump. If you live on that side, you can take it to McBerry Dump, you can take it to Sweet Lake, and you can take it to Big Lake. You can take it to Klondike and Lauren. The other dump site, as of right now, I'm sorry, they're not open. I've given the hooks for the fences and the sewers, but you cannot bring any kind of debris material, strictly household.
Correct, and those dump sites that aren't open right now, like you said, we cannot open them until the fence is replaced and we're able to lock it. And so, and then we'll have to make sure that any of the roll-offs are all cleaned and everything. So, but we are working on it. We have the quotes for the fence, and we hope to have an estimated completion date on those fences by the end of this week, beginning of next. And we'll start advertising that.
With that, is there any estimated time that I'll be telling you?
We actually started cleaning that one yesterday. The other problem we're running into is gonna be when they come, they have to come clean out the septic tanks and stuff like that. Even though we are not gonna be using them, we'll have toilets. I cannot get a straight up answer yet how fast they can get the material for the fence. That's kind of where the holdup is. It's the fence and materials.
We can't accept trash unless we have someone there, correct?
Yes, someone has to be there, and there it has to have a fence, you gotta have it in hand. You cannot, because we cannot take any kind of debris unless it's household. Yes, sir. That's the holdup.
But the order's been placed to replace the fence. It has been placed, we're waiting on the fencing company to schedule.
All right, I'll say a question. Katie, if, correct me if I'm wrong here, but when you're asking about carrying the stuff to the dump site yourself, you're paying. FEMA don't pay for that, right?
If you carry it to a private landfill, they will charge you. Now, if we are able to set up our own community dump site, then that will be, that will fall into different, that's something that we're paying the staging, and we won't charge.
That this company's picking up. FEMA's paying all
Yes.
that, they're picking up. You bring it privately, hire somebody, you pay for disposal, right?
Right, we're paying for the disposal if they bring it to the community dump site. But if they bring it to a private landfill individually, then they're gonna be charged and they'll have to go through those costs. The only ones I know of that are accepting debris, I don't even know, do you know if any of the landfills are accepting debris from residents right now? Tomasi is. A lot of them have closed, they're only allowing debris removal companies to use their landfills right now.
Any idea if and when we might have one of the community sites?
As soon as we can get the permit from DNR, I mean, we waited 18 months for the boat launch. I'm sure, hope it's not gonna take us that long. Karen, can you give an update?
I think it's gonna be this week. They are issuing the emergency use authorization on most of the sites. I don't know if it will qualify for all the sites, but we're hoping that it will. So it looks, everything's flowing like it needs to be, everything's good. Actually, the Corps issued an EUA on one of the sites, on one of the southern sites yesterday, so it is moving along.
We could probably get the governor to push that under the health issue.
I don't think we need to. I think they're gonna work with us, and they know the importance of getting this right.
Time is of the essence.
Yes,
It is a safety.
That's right.
factor.
Correct.
What is the status of something coming on? Or
Yeah, the crater site has applied.
You applied for a posting permit? Okay, so,
where's it at?
On the curve.
No, I know, I'm talking about in the process.
Well, he just actually submitted his EUA permit application, yesterday. But they're expediting them within 3 to 4 days, so they're moving them to it.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you,
Keep up the good work, keep on the track.
It's all good.
yes, we have a few things, Mr. McGee. So first off, I wanted to give you guys an update on the libraries. Unfortunately, Ms. Dee couldn't make it today, so I'm gonna give the update on her behalf. All of the libraries have been inspected. They are cleared by our structural engineers. They're cleared to be able to occupy, and so we're doing water remediation on them. And anyone that has an elevator, those are going to inspection right now. Everyone with the exception of Hackberry. What we're gonna do with Hackberry is because Hackberry already had committed to building a new library and they had just purchased the property, instead of wasting all of our PW funding and resources on repairing the Hackberry library, we're just gonna allocate all those funds to the new library and expedite building the new library. So what Dee Dee and her staff has been doing is packing everything up out of the old library in Hackberry, and they're going to bring it to the Cameron main branch and store it. And then once they get the new library placed and open in Hackberry, then we'll have a grand opening over there. But all the other libraries in the parish fared extremely well. There is some work that needs to be done, and we'll begin repairs on that as soon as we can hear back from our insurance company and see what their settlement's gonna be.
What's the sheriff's, plans on the library and ground?
So the sheriff and the register of voter both are temporarily located there until we are able to get shore power back to Cameron. Once we're able to get off the generators and get our shore power restored in the square, then they'll move all their offices back over here. The needs of the sheriff's office was a little different. They needed to be in Cameron Parish but they're about to start sending out all the tax notices and stuff, so they really needed to be running on shore power with dependable internet access to get that done. So they're gonna stay in the Grand Lake Library, like I said, until we're able to get them back in camera.
We have a timeline from Jim Davis on power 2 years.
I don't, do you have one, Dan?
Do you hear? And I ain't talking about a target date. I mean, we covered that project, but they won't even talk about it.
Yeah, but if they're talking a year,
And they're not even saying.
5 years, or 2 years, or whatever.
They rebuilding Creole and Grand Stand, and see work they have cameras, so.
If that is the case, if we're looking at long term, I think the sheriff needs to be looking at putting some temporary offices located maybe on the 80 acres up there somewhere, where that he can get out that library and free up that library space.
Yes, sir, we can look at that. Ms. Dee said that she didn't mind them being stationed there. And as for all the other offices, we are committed to come in here a few days a week and run all the generators. It's not something that we can do full-time, 7 days a week. But the sheriff needs to be, he just can't get his staff down here right now to work on the generators. His work and his needs are just a little bit different than everyone else's. So Ms. Dee committed to giving him the library through the end of the year if he needed it.
Is he trying to call, is he trying to lobby Jim Davis, get him to give it?
I think everyone's been talking to Jeff Davis, and they're trying, guys.
Picture right here, it seems like they were trying to get this something. I wrote up.
I'm just amazed, I mean, how much work's got to be done to electricity from the north. I don't know, maybe they're coming from a different direction.
Well, they come from like Ranchadier, these creeks, here, they come all.
But man, all that infrastructure is along the highway and all over there.
One of the things that they told me is that they lost all the crossings that they was at. And they're planning on forcing under GIWW instead of trying to go over. That's gonna take some time, permitting, things that they've done. So, and we can request it to be our next meeting, but I'm not even sure they will be a time.
Like I said, it's too far out. The boring looks like it might go through, but it's a timeline, and they talk about wanting concrete utility poles, and that might not fly. That's what they shoot for. About to bore these intercoastals with concrete poles coming over. Now, there was talk about energizing just Cameron. So, you know, everybody's gonna generate power. Like Don Michael will be, Hackberry is, we got a lot of places like y'all, all on generators. Grand Lake's gonna be on generators, powered by gas, propane. So that's months ago, those transmissions, the lines are told, and it's gonna take months to rebuild. So they're working fast, they're making good progress, but down here, and they're all working, so they're doing the foundation. I see poles, wires going up. They've got to get that, so when they get their stations up, they can fire up.
What is the outlook for the Grand Lake?
They put, their timeline is October 5th, the target date, and they're pretty confident on that. But I think before the thing they're gonna generate today, they ran the generator yesterday, tweaking it up. So it'd probably be before, but they still sticking to the 5th, and they're real confident in that date.
I have something else. There's an add-on that I'd like to add. I've already talked to Mary, and she thinks she can get it. That was a 10-minute break in between meetings, but we actually completed our phase 1 of the Gomeza Shoreline Protection Project, which was at Rutherford Beach. So we'd like to recommend it to be added on to the agenda for substantial completion acceptance. And this is going to be different than what's already on the agenda. The phase 3 of our Gomeza Shoreline Protection Project bid acceptance for Little Florida is on the agenda. So it's going to be 2 different agenda items.
I got something like that. You know, I talked with all of you several different times, but